There's a strange heaviness that creeps in when you've been running from yourself for too long. It's subtle at first, like a whisper you can ignore, a twinge in your stomach when a certain topic comes up, the way your chest tightens when someone raises their voice, the way you feel exhausted, even after resting. Most people don't notice it. They just keep going, hoping that ignoring the discomfort will make it disappear. But emotions don't vanish because we refuse to look at them. They wait. They linger in the body, in the corners of the mind, in the habits we can't explain. And over time, what you run from grows heavier until it quietly shapes the way you move through life. Avoidance feels safe in the moment. You distract yourself with work, scroll endlessly through your phone, or lose yourself in relationships that feel familiar, even if they hurt. You tell yourself you're fine, that it's not that deep, because actually sitting with the pain feels terrifying. But the truth is, emotions are designed to be felt. When they're ignored, they don't simply evaporate. They settle deep within, waiting for a chance to surface. Like a beach ball being pushed underwater, they'll always rise back up, often at the worst possible time. Think about the arguments that feel bigger than they should, or the random moments of panic that don't make sense. Think about the tension in your shoulders that never seems to leave, or the way certain memories replay in your mind like a broken record. These are not coincidences. They're signs of a mind and body holding secrets you've been too afraid to face. The emotional energy you avoid doesn't just vanish. It leaks out in ways you can't control, through your health, your relationships, your sense of peace. There's a reason people keep falling into the same patterns. The mind is wired to seek resolution. It tries to recreate old wounds in new scenarios, hoping that maybe this time you'll pay attention and heal. But most of us don't notice. We label ourselves as unlucky or broken, never realizing that what we're really experiencing is a message from within, asking us to stop running. Avoidance feels like control, but it's actually the opposite. Every time you push away an emotion, it becomes stronger, its presence more subtle but more powerful. Science even shows that unprocessed emotions affect the nervous system. When you avoid discomfort, your brain doesn't register safety, it registers threat. Your body stays in a low-grade state of fight or flight, always alert, always tense. That's why many people live in a constant state of anxiety without realizing it's their avoidance that's feeding the fear. You don't heal by numbing. You don't grow by pretending the pain isn't there. Healing starts when you dare to feel. And this isn't about being dramatic or over-analyzing everything. It's about being honest. There's a part of you that's tired of pretending. You've noticed it before. In those moments of silence where your thoughts get too loud, or when a small trigger brings tears to your eyes and you don't know why. You've been carrying stories that need to be heard, and the more you run, the heavier they become. That heaviness, it's not weakness, it's a signal, a quiet call to come back to yourself. Every symptom, every unexplained reaction, every pattern that keeps repeating is proof that your emotions are alive, waiting for you. They're not here to punish you, they're here to guide you. The discomfort is a map, and every tear you've held back, every tight breath you've swallowed, is a step closer to understanding yourself. The pain you've avoided isn't a monster hiding in the shadows. It's a wounded part of you asking for your attention. When you stop running, something shifts. At first, it feels unbearable, like standing in the middle of a storm without shelter. But if you stay long enough, you start to realize the storm isn't here to destroy you. It's here to wash you clean. That's the paradox of avoidance. The very thing you fear feeling is the thing that will set you free. And every moment you choose to face what you've been hiding from, you reclaim a piece of yourself that's been lost in the chaos. That's where true healing begins, when you finally decide to stop hiding from the parts of you that have been calling for your love all along. There's a quiet truth we rarely talk about. Your body has been carrying your secrets longer than you have. Every emotion you've pushed away, every memory you've tried to bury, every time you've told yourself, "I'm fine," when you weren't, the body has been listening. It doesn't argue with your mind. It doesn't try to reason. It simply holds. It holds the tension in your jaw when you smile through pain. It holds the ache in your stomach when you swallow words you want to say. It holds the heaviness in your chest every time you replay a moment you'd rather forget. What you refuse to process, your body will express for you. Think about how often people visit doctors for unexplained symptoms. Migraines, digestive issues, fatigue, only to be told everything looks normal. But that's because the pain isn't always physical. It's emotional energy trapped in a physical vessel. Your nervous system is like a journal, recording every experience you couldn't fully process at the time. That tightness in your shoulders after a stressful conversation, that flutter in your stomach before you see someone who hurt you years ago, these are not random reactions, they're reminders. Your body is constantly whispering truths your mind tries to silence. We live in a world that teaches us to ignore these whispers. We take painkillers, drink coffee to push through exhaustion, scroll endlessly to distract ourselves from anxiety. We've normalized living disconnected from our own signals, labeling ourselves tired, stressed, or just sensitive, instead of understanding that our body is sounding alarms. And over time, when we don't listen, those whispers get louder. What starts as a headache becomes chronic pain. What begins as a racing heart during an argument becomes daily anxiety. Emotional avoidance is like shaking a bottle of soda and refusing to open it. The pressure doesn't disappear because you pretend it's not there. Science backs this up. Studies show that repressed emotions can activate the same parts of the brain that respond to physical danger, meaning your body stays in survival mode even when nothing is threatening you in the present. That's why your heart races over something small, or why certain smells, songs, or places trigger tears out of nowhere. Your body doesn't care about time. It remembers the fear, the shame, the sadness, and it reacts as if it's happening right now. Healing, then, isn't just about calming the mind. It's about teaching the body that it is finally safe. There's a fascinating phenomenon in trauma therapy called somatic release. It's when emotions you've buried finally find a way out, not through talking, but through sensation. Someone might cry uncontrollably without knowing why, or feel shaking in their arms or legs as their body discharges the energy it has been holding for years. This isn't weakness, it's intelligence. Your body has been protecting you the only way it knows how, keeping your pain locked away until you are ready to face it. That's why healing feels physical. That's why real change doesn't just happen in your head, but deep in your bones, in the way you breathe, in the way you finally sleep without that knot in your chest. We're taught to see our bodies as separate from our emotions, but they are deeply intertwined. If your body could speak, it would tell you where you've been holding grief. It would point to the tightness in your throat that comes every time you have to be strong. It would show you how you've been carrying anger in your back, guilt in your stomach, heartbreak in your heart rate. And yet, your body is not your enemy. It's your messenger. Every ache, every knot, every unexplained fatigue is an invitation to listen. When you start listening, something shifts. You begin to notice patterns. You realize that your body has been trying to protect you, not punish you. That chronic tension isn't just stress, it's a shield you built to survive. Those panic attacks aren't weakness, they're signals that something inside is desperate to be acknowledged. And as you start to understand this language, you begin to soften. You begin to trust yourself again. You start seeing your body not as a burden, but as the safest place to begin your healing. If this resonates with you, if you've felt those whispers in your own body and you're ready to stop ignoring them, take a second to subscribe and share this video, because you're not alone in this. There are so many of us walking around carrying invisible stories in our bodies, waiting for someone to put words to what we feel. And as you reflect on this, let yourself wonder what it would be like to finally break free from these patterns, to understand the language of your body, and to reclaim the safety that's always been yours. That's where everything begins to change. Have you ever felt like life keeps handing you the same story, just with different characters and settings? You leave one relationship, only to find yourself in another that feels painfully familiar. You quit a job because of a toxic boss, only to end up with a new one who triggers the same emotions. You promise yourself you'll never fall back into certain patterns, yet months later, there you are, living them again. It feels like bad luck, but it isn't. It's your unconscious mind at work, replaying unfinished lessons like a movie stuck on repeat, desperately hoping you'll notice what you've been running from. The mind is a master of repetition. What is unresolved doesn't disappear. It waits patiently in the background, whispering through your choices and shaping your reactions. You're not weak for finding yourself in the same situations over and over. You're human. Your brain is wired to seek resolution, and so it draws you to familiar dynamics, even when those dynamics hurt. Think about a child who grows up in chaos. As an adult, calmness feels foreign, even unsafe, while chaos feels like home. Without conscious work, we return to what we know, not what we need. That's why your patterns are not random. They are clues to where you're still hurting. There's a psychological concept called repetition compulsion, where a person unconsciously recreates scenarios similar to past trauma, attempting to rewrite the ending. This is why someone who grew up feeling abandoned might chase emotionally unavailable partners, hoping that if they can finally make it work, the wound will heal. The problem is, instead of healing, these patterns deepen the pain. We keep picking the same types of people, the same cycles, because our minds crave familiarity over growth. Change feels dangerous to the nervous system, so we unknowingly choose what feels safe, even if it's destroying us. Have you ever noticed how your reactions are sometimes disproportionate to the moment? Maybe your partner doesn't text back and suddenly you're spiraling, feeling worthless and unloved. Or a co-worker criticizes your work and you can't stop thinking about it for days. These emotional responses often have little to do with the present moment. They're echoes of old wounds, replaying themselves through new situations. Your mind isn't trying to hurt you, it's trying to get your attention. These repeated scenarios are like a teacher who refuses to leave the classroom until you've learned the lesson. But here's the twist. Noticing the pattern is the first step to breaking it. When you start seeing these cycles for what they are, a mirror, not a punishment, you reclaim your power. The people and situations triggering you are not coincidences, they're invitations. They're opportunities to face the emotions you've been avoiding, to rewrite your story, not by changing others, but by changing how you respond. Imagine how liberating it would feel to see the same triggers, but this time to choose differently. It's not easy work. Patterns run deep because they were formed when you were vulnerable, when your mind was just trying to keep you safe. That's why breaking them often feels like betraying yourself. It's unfamiliar territory. But the truth is, the cycle is not who you are. It's a survival mechanism that's outlived its usefulness. You don't have to keep reliving the same heartbreaks, the same disappointments, the same pain. The story can change, but it starts with recognizing that you're holding the pen, not your past. And as you begin to see these patterns clearly, something shifts inside you. You realize that your triggers are not random. They're maps pointing toward what needs healing. Every argument, every heartbreak, every moment of frustration is an opening. Your mind isn't betraying you, it's begging you to pay attention. The repetition is not a curse. It's an invitation to finally face what's been buried for so long. Because the moment you stop running from your own patterns is the moment you start reclaiming your life, piece by piece, choice by choice. Confronting yourself is one of the most terrifying things you will ever do, and yet it is the single act that can truly set you free. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding their reflection, not the one in the mirror, but the one in their own mind. They avoid the silence because it's too loud. They avoid stillness because it feels unsafe. They drown themselves in work, entertainment, or toxic connections, not because they're lazy or weak, but because facing themselves feels unbearable. What they don't realize is that running doesn't make the fear disappear. It makes it grow roots. Imagine standing in front of a locked door you've been avoiding for years. You don't know what's on the other side, but you're convinced it's something dark, something painful, something that will swallow you whole. So you stay away, building your life around avoiding that door. But deep down, a quiet part of you knows that freedom is on the other side. The anxiety, the exhaustion, the emotional chaos, they're all symptoms of avoiding what's behind it. And here's the truth: most people never want to admit. What we fear facing is rarely as terrifying as the fear itself. The emotions waiting behind that door are not monsters. They're wounded parts of you, desperate to be heard, seen, and held. Facing your emotions doesn't mean wallowing in them or letting them control you. It means sitting with yourself long enough to understand their language. Most people are shocked when they first allow themselves to feel fully, because emotions pass through the body much faster when they're acknowledged rather than suppressed. Studies in neuroscience show that an emotion fully felt can peak and soften in about 90 seconds, but we spend decades avoiding them, turning them into lifelong prisons when they were only meant to be temporary visitors. Think about the last time you let yourself cry, really cry without trying to stop it. Maybe you were alone, maybe it surprised you, but when it was over, there was a strange sense of clarity. That's because emotion is energy, and when you face it, you release it. This is why practices like meditation and mindfulness are so powerful. They don't erase pain, they create space for it to be seen. And once something is seen, it loses its power to control you from the shadows. Facing yourself also requires vulnerability, a word many people misunderstand. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength in its rawest form. It's the courage to admit, "I'm hurting," or "I don't have it all figured out," or even, "I'm scared." Because this honesty is magnetic, because it connects us to others on a deeper level. People are drawn to authenticity because it gives them permission to be real, too. And the more you allow yourself to be vulnerable, the more you discover that your pain isn't unique in a way that isolates you. It's universal in a way that connects you. This is why therapy works. Not because a therapist gives you magical solutions, but because they create a safe space for you to unlock that door. Even outside of therapy, you can start practicing this confrontation gently. Try journaling without censoring yourself, writing down thoughts you'd never dare say out loud. Sit in silence for 5 minutes a day, simply noticing what rises up. Talk to a trusted friend, not to get advice, but to finally put words to your pain. Confrontation doesn't have to be dramatic. It can start in whispers. What's fascinating is that when you face your emotions, they often reveal truths about your life you never expected. That anger you've been suppressing might point to a boundary you've been afraid to set. That sadness you keep numbing might lead you to a part of yourself you abandoned years ago. When you face these emotions, you don't just heal the pain, you uncover wisdom. Pain becomes a teacher, and instead of fearing it, you begin to respect it. And slowly, everything begins to shift. The door you once avoided becomes less intimidating. You start to see that your emotions are not here to destroy you. They're here to guide you. The process is not comfortable, but comfort was never the goal. Freedom was. True peace is not found in avoiding life's storms, but in learning to walk through them with courage. And the moment you choose to face yourself, even trembling, you start reclaiming pieces of yourself you thought were lost forever. That's when healing stops being just an idea and becomes something you can feel in your bones. There comes a moment in every healing journey when pain stops feeling like an enemy and starts revealing itself as a guide. The memories that once haunted you, the emotions that felt unbearable, begin to soften when you allow them to exist without judgment. What once felt like a curse becomes a compass, pointing you toward the parts of yourself you abandoned along the way. This is the power of reframing pain, not denying it, not minimizing it, but giving it meaning. Pain is proof that something mattered, that you cared deeply, that you survived. And survival is not weakness, it's strength disguised as scars. Resignifying pain is about rewriting the story you tell yourself. Maybe you grew up believing that being hurt made you unworthy of love, or that your mistakes defined you. But when you choose to see those moments as chapters instead of definitions, you begin to shift. You realize that every wound holds wisdom. The heartbreak that shattered you taught you about boundaries. The betrayal that broke your trust showed you your resilience. Even your failures become teachers when you stop treating them as verdicts. Suddenly, the parts of your life you wanted to erase become stepping stones, not chains. There's a Japanese art form called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, they are highlighted, celebrated as part of the object's history. The result is something more beautiful than it was before it broke. Healing is like that. You are not meant to come out of pain untouched or unchanged. You are meant to emerge with golden seams, stronger because of what you've been through. That's what makes your story powerful. That's why your voice matters. True transformation isn't about erasing your past, it's about owning it. You stop running, stop fighting yourself, and instead begin to integrate all the pieces you once rejected. And when you do, you start showing up differently in the world. You carry yourself with quiet strength because you know what it took to get here. You speak with compassion because you've been where others are now. You no longer fear the parts of yourself that once felt too heavy to hold. That's where freedom lives, when you no longer need to escape your own reflection. And this is the invitation, to see your pain as the very place where your power is born. To stop apologizing for your story and instead use it to light the path for yourself and others. Healing is not a straight line, but every step you take toward understanding yourself is a victory. Every tear shed, every difficult conversation, every boundary set is proof that you are breaking cycles and choosing something better. If these words spoke to you, if they reminded you of your own strength or inspired you to finally face what's been calling you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to this channel, share this message, and help it reach the people who need it most. You never know who is silently fighting a battle they think they can't win. Your journey, your courage, your willingness to heal could be the reminder they've been waiting for. And as you move forward, remember this. The cracks in your story are not flaws. They are the places where your light gets in. That's where the transformation begins. And that's why this is only the start of everything you're meant to become.